All right. So, hello everyone. This is going to be the discussion for the questions of this computer-based test CBT from DAMS. We'll be discussing these questions one by one. So, we have 10 questions. I'm sure you can see the questions and the options as well. So, let us start with the first one. Identify the muscle being tested in the illustration shown here. I'm sure you can very well appreciate that the shoulder at this point of time is in a position of internal rotation. And I'm sure you do appreciate that the examiner is trying to pose a resistance onto the right hand of the patient. He's not allowing that patient to lift off that particular hand. And that is one important reason why this test is called as Gerber's lift off test. That is why this test is called Gerber's lift off test. This is one test which is done for this particular muscle called subscapularis, which is technically an internal rotator of the shoulder. So, to summarize, it's a Gerber's lift off test, and it is done for this muscle called subscapularis, and which is basically responsible for internal rotation. So obviously answer to this particular question will be A. Alright, so answer to this particular question will be A. Moving on to the second question. The second question here is, which of the following nerve injury gives you the worst prognosis? Now when they say that which of the following nerve injury gives you the worst prognosis, I'll make it very simple for you. It's very simple. The worst prognosis, when we talk about peripheral nerve injury, right? When we talk about peripheral nerve injury, right? The worst prognosis is shown by ulnar nerve. At any given point of time, the worst prognosis is shown by ulnar nerve. At the same time, if I say worst prognosis despite surgical repair, if I say worst prognosis despite surgical repair, that is pretty much important, and it is shown by sciatic nerve. So you should remember these two very important MCQs. So overall worst prognosis is shown by, ulnar nerve, but despite surgical repair, it is shown by sciatic nerve. So as far as this question is concerned, it mentions just the worst prognosis, and all nerves from the upper extremity are covered. So definitely answer will be ulnar nerve. Very simple. Question number 3. Third question is very important and interesting as well. Which of the following is the most common direction of epiphyseal slip in SCFE? I'm sure everybody knows that SCFE is slipped capital femoral epiphysis. And I'm sure that by now all of you know this as well, that actually this term is a misnomer, because technically if we talk about this term, actually in this there is no epiphyseal slip. Actually there is no epiphyseal slip. It is actually the anterolateral disruption. It is actually nothing but an anterolateral physeal disruption. It is technically an anterolateral physeal disruption, which gives a feeling that epiphysis has gone posteromedially, but that's not a true slip. Do you understand my point? That is not a true slip. That is an apparent slip. So technically there is no slip, but apparently there is a posteromedial slip, and definitely I'll go with the answer which is technically right. So answer will be no slip. It is still well seated inside the sternum. Next question. Which of the following is the most common giant cell variant? Now before I go further, I want you to understand that what are the giant cell variants? What are the giant cell variants? Very simple to remember giant cell variants. You should remember this English vocabulary. You should remember these alphabets A, B, C, D, E, F, G and H. Let us start with H only. It is basically nothing but histiocytoma, while G is giant cell rich osteosarcoma. As far as F is concerned, it is fibroma, and non-ossifying variety. It is fibroma that is of non-ossifying variety. The next thing that we have here is epulis. Epulis is basically giant cell reparative granuloma. As far as D is concerned, this is desmoblastic. This is desmoblastic fibroma. As far as C is concerned, it is chondroblastoma. It is chondroblastoma. And as far as B is concerned, it is Brown's tumor. It is Brown's tumor, hyperparathyroidism. And as far as A is concerned, this is aneurysmal bone cyst. Aneurysmal bone cyst, ABC. Now, what I want you to understand is that this is the closest giant cell variant, while this non-ossifying fibroma is the most common giant cell variant. I hope you understand. All are giant cell variants for sure. There's no doubt about it. But you have to understand that when we talk about, the closest, it is aneurysmal bone cyst, and most common it is non-ossifying fibroma. So you have to be very careful about that, whether they have asked closest or whether they have asked most common. They have asked most common here. And therefore the answer will be non-ossifying fibroma. Moving on to the next question. Which of the following is associated with maximum shortening? Which of the following is associated with maximum shortening? It's very simple. The maximum amount of shortening is associated with posterior hip dislocation. I mean, there is no confusion about it. It's very simple. And the least amount of shortening, suppose if they don't ask you maximum, if they ask you which is the most minimum, or you can say the least shortening, shortening but least shortening, the answer will be fracture neck of femur. The answer over there will be fracture neck of femur, but here they have asked about the maximum shortening, so it is basically posterior dislocation. Moving on to the next question. Identify the implant. It's very simple. It is a clear-cut Denham spin. There is no doubt about it. It's a clear-cut Denham spin. Why do I say it is a Denham spin? Because it has central grooves. It has central grooves. That is very important. It has central grooves. And not only it has central grooves, but you have to understand that this is the most common implant. You have to understand that this is the most common implant for cancellous bones. This is the most common implant used for cancellous bones like calcaneum. It is the most common implant that is for cancellous bones like calcaneum. So these grooves are very important because they actually, they take hold of that particular bone. So this implant is very clearly Denham spin. Moving ahead to the next question. A 25-year-old soccer player complains of injury to right knee 6 months ago. Fantastic. After that, it says that there is a feeling of sudden giving way of knee joint with knee in 90-degree flexion. So when knee is in 90-degree flexion, there is a feeling of giving way. All right. When knee is in 90-degree flexion, there is a feeling of giving way. So you have to understand what is the protocol here. The protocol here says that anterior cruciate ligament has to prevent excess anterior translation. It has to prevent excess anterior translation of tibia over femur. It has to prevent excess anterior translation of tibia over femur. But what I want you to understand is that this anterior cruciate ligament further has got two bundles. One is called anteromedial bundle, one is called posterolateral bundle. One is called the AM bundle, one is called the PL bundle. And the value of these two bundles is that when your knee is in 90-degree flexion, then at that point of time, anteromedial bundle is the chief bundle. But when your knee is in complete extension, alright, when your knee is in complete extension, at that point of time, PL bundle is the main bundle. So these are the two important bundles with the respective values. Now let's take a look at the question. In this question, there is a feeling of sudden giving way with knee in 90-degree flexion. So if the knee is in 90-degree flexion, there is a feeling of giving way. So when knee is in 90-degree flexion, if the knee is giving way, that means which bundle is torn? That means AM bundle is torn. That is why there is a feeling of giving way. But that feeling disappears when the knee is taken into complete extension. So when knee goes in complete extension, the feeling disappears. So that means in this particular position, the bundle which is supposed to work is PL bundle, and that is absolutely intact. So PL is intact, AM is gone. So answer is anteromedial bundle of ACL. A, very simple. Moving on to the next question. Most common cause of failure of conservative treatment of manipulation and casting in CTV is. See, whenever we talk about CTV, try to understand, whenever we talk about CTV, what you have to understand is that in CTV, the Ponseti technique is a very good technique with a very good success percentage. But the thing is, whenever that doesn't work, the reason has always been a non-compliance with bracing issues. No, maybe on the part of parent, maybe on the part of kid, I don't know, maybe on whose part, but yes, most common cause has always been found to be this. I mean, there is, it has never been found in the statistical values that yes, a doctor was at fault or somebody was at fault. No, the technique has always been perfect, everything has always been perfect, so there is no issue as far as that particular thing is concerned. Next question. Next question. This is something very interesting. Why I'm saying this is interesting? Because there is a condition called, first of all, I'll tell you, there is a condition called Kohler's disease. There's a condition called Kohler's disease. Now, when we talk about Kohler's disease, try to understand. And then there is a condition called Kohler's disease. Okay, first we'll write down the condition. Then there is a condition called Kienbock's disease. There is a condition called Kohler's disease. There is a condition called Kienbock's disease. There is a condition called Freiberg's disease. Freiberg's disease. Now what happens? And then there is one more. Yes, Panner's disease. Panner's disease. So what happens in here is that whenever there is avascular necrosis of capitulum, whenever there is avascular necrosis of capitulum, they call it Panner's disease. Alright, they call it Panner's disease. They call it Panner's disease. Freiberg's disease, head of second metatarsal. Head of second metatarsal. Kienbock's disease, that basically involves lunate. Kohler's disease, that basically involves navicular. Okay, that basically involves navicular. So I just give you a couple of ideas of something called osteochondritis. These are one-liner MCQs that you have to mug up very carefully. So answer is not lunate, answer is not talus, answer is not navicular, answer is scaphoid. So Precer's basically involves, that is basically scaphoid. Now moving ahead of the last question, identify the angle shown in the illustration above. Very simple and a very basic and a very interesting question. It is Bowman's angle. Now Bowman angle is made between two lines. One line is parallel to the shaft of humerus. One line is parallel to the shaft of humerus, and another line is basically along the superior capitular growth plate. And another line is basically along the superior capitular growth plate. And the angle between the two, this one, okay, this one is basically Bowman's angle. Do you understand that? This one is basically Bowman's angle. So one line is basically parallel to the shaft of humerus. Okay, one line is basically parallel to the shaft of humerus. Another line is basically along the superior capitular growth plate. That is what is called as Bowman's angle, which is very important and used in this particular fracture called supracondylar fracture of humerus. Supracondylar fracture of humerus. All right, so these were the important questions, and I wish you all the best for coming all exams. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Enjoy.